10:30 back on the Sports Fix. You're listening to North Central Florida sports leader, ESPN Radio and ESPNGo1.com. Adam Reardon, Scott Brantley inside the Ocala studios. Our partner Chris Doran will rejoin us in hour number 2 of the show. As the greatest day in college basketball is upon us, the start of the NCAA Tournament. Again, with all due respect to those teams that have participated in opening rounds, and I'm using the quotation mark, opening round games over the last couple days. This is the day that really look, if the other games really counted, they'd make you pick them inside our brackets, okay? And make sure you locked in your picks on Tuesday as opposed to the Thursday in which it is. Let's talk a little college basketball. Now, Danny Money of CanesInSight.com, our guest each and every Thursday to talk Miami Hurricane sports. When I envisioned having Danny on a regular basis, I'll be honest, Danny, I never dreamt that I would have you on in a week that followed Miami capping off a regular season ACC basketball title and then the ACC tournament title in the same year. Be honest, all right? You're down there. You've been a fan as long as I have. Did you ever envision a day where Miami would be the ACC regular season and tournament champions in the same year?
Never. And before it used to be the Big East title, which, is a strong conference in its own right, and that looked like a lofty goal. And then once Miami moved to the ACC, it seemed like that ship had sailed, and you were hoping to be a competitive team, someone who at least was respectable, double team every year, kind of squeeze into the tournament. But to win it so early is really mind-blowing. And, I mean, it's amazing. You have baseball season starting, you have spring practice going on for football, and we're here talking about basketball. Never would have expected it. Sitting in a half-empty Miami arena, watching Marcus Barnes just shoot up threes. I mean, it's come so far since then. It really is something to see.
Danny, you look at this, the bracketing, and for them to go up there to Greensboro, win the ACC championship, first time I think they competed for it, but to win it, and as Adam described, to win the regular season, I mean, things got to be on fire. And then to get bracketed the way they did, I think it's a very workable, I think it's a very favorable type bracket all the way to what might be the Final Four. I mean, how is everybody feeling down in Miami about where they're seated?
Well, Miami always, just the fan base is always going to be looking for that sort of chip on their shoulder, the slight. And first it was Shane Larkin not winning Player of the Year, and now it's the 2-seed deal. So everybody's always kind of find something to be upset about. But really, the bracket shapes up well. I know personally, my biggest concern is that there's some tough Big Ten teams in the bracket, and that style of play has given Miami a little bit of trouble in the past few weeks. They haven't been playing Big Ten teams, but that grinded out style of play really is not what Miami does best. They can do it, they can win games like that, but Miami at their best is what you saw in the ACC championship game against North Carolina, a real up and down, exciting game. That's the kind of style they like to play. But a team like Indiana can slow it down on them. A team like Illinois potentially can slow it down on them. So there's some pitfalls, but they can't be upset with the way it's shaked out. They'll definitely be the favorites in a lot of these games, if not all these games.
Now, Danny, you sounded a heck of a lot more level-headed than I was when Selection Sunday came out. I'm one of those guys screaming, hey, they got screwed. If Duke is the regular season and tournament champions of the ACC, no question in my mind they're a number 1 seed. You look at all these other number 1 seeds out there with the exception of Indiana. Indiana didn't win both the conference and the regular season. Louisville did. Who's up there? Kansas did. Gonzaga did. Miami did not. I mean, did as well, but they gave it to Indiana. And I'm of the belief that does it matter if you're the 1 or a 2? I mean, because in the end you're set to play each other anyway. So there's really no home court advantage, if you will. But I think in just accomplishment alone, Miami got screwed out of the right to put in their media guide next year. Hey, they achieved the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
I honestly think it's a good thing because Miami plays better when they have something to prove. When they played Duke and North Carolina the first go-around, they had something to prove. They wanted to show that Miami is different this year. This is no longer a Duke and North Carolina ACC, and we're going to prove it to you. And they did. Now, once they had some success is when they started to struggle a little bit. And then after they struggled and people started writing them off, that's when they went on a run to finish the ACC, win the regular season title, and then win the ACC tournament. So I think they played better with a chip on their shoulder. I think that's only going to be a good thing. Historically, you've had some 2-15 defeats, but obviously every tournament is different, every game is different, every team is different. But I think just for this team, that little edge is actually a good thing. And Personally, do I think that if they had Duke or North Carolina in the front of their jerseys, that they'd be a 1 seed right now? Absolutely. But, that's earned over time. That's only natural. And ultimately, I think it'll be a good thing for the University of Miami.
Danny, you got a Coach of the Year. You got what should have been the Player of the Year in Shane Larkin. And you ain't got to reveal who you got. I know everybody fills out a bracket. Adam and I have already filled out ours a long time ago. But can you tell us how far you really legitimately think this Miami team can run in this thing? And you don't have to reveal if they go. Are they a legitimate Final Four team?
Can they make it there? Absolutely. I mean, it's a single elimination tournament. So much can happen. They are very vulnerable, as you saw towards the end of the year. They won a lot of close games. They lost a couple close games. They were in a lot of close games. So, it's hard to say. Do they have the pieces? I think so. Do they have pieces that translate into this format? I think so. The old cliche is the backcourt is what determines NCAA tournament success. Well, in that case, Miami has Shane Larkin, who's one of the best point guards in the entire nation, a two-way player. And then Durant Scott, a senior, another two-way player who can score. He had 30-plus into the ACC tournament to get him into the championship game, and he also won ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So right there, between Shane Larkin and Durant Scott, you have two great two-way guards who have poise and who can score and create. So I think that's a major advantage for them in the tournament. And they also have versatility. They can play a few different styles. Although they like to play up and down, they have big men. They can slow it down. They have experience. They've seen a lot. They're fairly battle-tested. They played a team like Michigan State already. They went to Hawaii for that tournament, and then obviously playing in the ACC. So I think they have the ingredients to excel in the tournament. Now, does that mean they're a slam-dunk Final Four team? Absolutely not. They're not that kind of dominant team. But they do have the pieces, and I think those pieces translate well to March.
Danny Money, CanesInSight.com, our guest here on the Sports Fix each and every Thursday to talk Miami Hurricane athletics. Let's bounce into football for a second, where spring football is underway there. How much different do you think the offense will look in 2013 from 2012? Obviously, Jed Fish moved on to the NFL. James Coley now the offensive coordinator. Should we be able to see a noticeable change in maybe the direction of the offense?
I really don't think so. We'll know more with these upcoming scrimmages, although they're not going to show everything they have. But Jed Fish really suited his offense to his personnel, and since that personnel comes back, I anticipate that James Coley will do a lot of the same things. Now, he's kept a lot of the same terminology just for the ease of the transition, make it easier on Stephen Morris, make it easier on the players coming back. So that part's changed. Obviously, there's going to be parts that he emphasizes of that offense that Jed Fish might not have emphasized. But I think what you're going to see is the same thing you saw last year. An offense that takes advantage of Stephen Morris's arm, that challenges all parts of the field, throws downfield, a very aggressive downfield offense. It's not going to be a dink and dunk offense. That doesn't suit Stephen's strengths. And I think the real change you'll see is you'll probably see more Duke Johnson. You saw plenty of him last year. Now that he's a sophomore, he's more established. Mike James has moved on. He'll be more of a factor, both as a running back, as a receiver, maybe a little less as a kick returner because there's guys that can fill that role. But other than that, it's still going to be a pro-style offense. One change you might see is a little more of a two tight end package now, with Clive Walford really emerging and now Bo Sandlin coming in. Standish Dobart, a very physically developed freshman who came in early, who might have a chance to play, and Asante Cleveland, who really was a non-factor last year that's felt the competition and improved this spring. You might see more multiple tight end sets, even some three tight end sets, just because of the improved depth at that position. But other than that, I think you're going to see a lot of the same things.
Danny, a lot of the attention down there obviously is on your basketball team this time of year, but it is springtime, and I think Miami started pretty early. You look up at FSU, they started, I think, yesterday or tomorrow or today. Florida's kind of in the middle of where they're going to be. A lot of attention's on that basketball team as well. But overall, how's the feeling down there from the new coaches, some of the things, maybe some early entry kids that have come in, making some noise, I'm sure. Give us an idea how that comes and when the spring game is going to be so people up here might know.
Sure. Coach Golden actually said that he's having more fun this spring than he's had any of the previous springs, and he's getting just a different feeling from the team. A lot of the distractions are gone. A lot of the so-called list guys, the guys that show up on the the S list every day or every week. Those guys have moved on or shaped up. So there's just a lot more of a focus on football this spring. And I know that all the coaches are really excited that you guys have transitioned in here well. And there's a lot of continuity. Stephen Morris has emerged as the undisputed leader of the team, the vocal leader of the team. He was out last spring. So, that's been a change. So I think the feeling with spring football is very good. Now, the defensive linemen didn't suddenly morph into Jerome Brown and Warren Sapp, so those issues are still there, but the continuity is just so much better. The overall feeling around the program, especially with the NCAA cloud, not gone, but less harsh than it might have been in the past.
Now,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You finish your thought, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying that there's going to be a few scrimmages coming up. The first scrimmage is going to be this Saturday at Travis Powell Stadium in North Miami. That's going to be at 10 a.m., and that'll be the first chance for a lot of Canes fans to see this team. There'll also be a scrimmage in Southwest Florida, and then ultimately the spring game in Pro Player mid-April.
Now, Danny, you mentioned the S list, if you will. If there's one guy that apparently is on the S list, it's Eddie Johnson. Now, I guess Al Golden commented on Eddie, saying that he won't comment on Eddie. What's the situation? I mean, is he a will he or won't he? I mean, in your opinion, will he or won't he be on this football team, game number 1 for the University of Miami?
Unfortunately, I don't think he will be, because with him, it's a lot of issues. It's not just one thing. It's grades, which, that's just plain numbers. That's your GPA. In plain ink, you can't really do much about that. There's the way he interacts with the coaches, sort of his occasional lack of respect, his disrespect for authority. That's another issue. And then he's just been getting in fights. I mean, it's funny, you get a guy like Sky, you talk to him, you never know that he was an All-American linebacker because, he's such an easygoing guy. Eddie Johnson, the way he plays and the person he is on the field is the person he is at all times. I mean, he always has that chip on his shoulder. He's always intense. He has from what I understand, he doesn't react to authority that well, particularly male authority. I met his mother; she's a lovely lady, but it's just in this environment, he's had a tough time, and it's a shame because he was a freshman All-America. He's everything you want on the football field. He plays every single snap hard. He probably has the best motor in the team to go along with his physical gifts, 240 pounds, runs about a 4.6. So he has a future in the NFL if he could just do the things necessary. And Coach Golden hasn't completely shut the door on him. He says, he's hopeful that eventually something can happen, but right now he's not enrolled. He's not on the team. And I think, Coach Golden's had as much patience with him as humanly possible. He's given him chance after chance after chance because he knows that he has a chance to really turn his life around and play in the NFL if he just stuck with the program. But unfortunately, I don't see that happening, but the door is not completely shut on Eddie Johnson.
Well, hopefully that can be salvaged. Too great of an athlete for it not to be. Let's talk about another Johnson, Duke Johnson. I know we talked prior, many months ago probably, Danny, and you talked about leadership, and that is so vital this time of year to really gain that. You mentioned Stephen Morris. Definitely, the quarterback's got to be that surefire leader. But you also mentioned months ago about Duke Johnson and how far he's come in that role. How is he becoming? How's he developing? Not only to be a better running back, he might. I mean, I remember Adam saying last year, "Hey, he's going to be a candidate for a Heisman Trophy maybe in a year or so." Great player, Duke Johnson. Tell us a little bit about him and where he stands as far as the leadership role.
Well, if Mike James moving on, there's a void at that position as far as leadership. All eyes are going to be on Duke because he is going to be the star of the team along with Stephen Morris. And, he's not as vocal with Stephen yet. He's still only a sophomore. But just the way he goes about his business is just such a great example for everybody else. And Coach Golden always, just heaps praise on the way that Duke approaches the process. He approaches every day. He works hard. He's humble. He's the same guy that was when he walked through the doors. He hasn't changed with his success. He still knows the name of everybody in the building. Everybody loves Duke. You can talk to the ball boys, to the coaches, to the players, obviously the fans, the people at the school. Everybody loves Duke, and that speaks a lot to how he was raised and this is the type of kid he is. So as far as leadership, when your best player and your star is doing things the right way and buying into the process and buying into what Coach Golden is selling, you have no choice but to fall in line because you want to be where he is. And Duke is really a champion of what Al Golden's been preaching. He it's funny. Al Golden always uses this phrase, brick by brick. Just you got to build brick by brick. You're not going to build a whole wall in one day, but you can lay a brick each day until you have that wall. It's kind of, you think with these young kids, some of them might find it corny. There is an age gap there. But Duke, that's actually his Twitter handle, brick by brick. So he's embraced everything that Coach Golden's selling, and he's spreading the word. So his leadership comes from being the best player on the team and still being on board with what the coaches are doing and not being bigger than the program.
Danny Money, CanesInsight.com, man, the best in the business covering the University of Miami. Visit the website, CanesInsight.com. Danny, appreciate it, man. We're off next week, spring break for us. We're going to try to stay out of trouble, man. We'll catch up with you in a couple weeks.
Enjoy the vacation, man.
We certainly will. Danny Money, CanesInsight.com. Coming up next, we turn our attention to Tallahassee. Ira Schofield, the Tallahassee Democrat, will join us. You're listening to the Sports Fix on ESPN Radio.